Yo, what's up, dudes? Yeah, fuck yeah, it's awesome. Yo, what's up, dudes? I got my main man, John Finn here. John, welcome to the basement.
Steve, good to see you,
so
man.
much for coming by.
Thank you for asking me to come on.
I really appreciate it, and you know he's a man on a mission, and the mission today is to talk about his super duper AxeFX, which I know about. I mean, everyone knows about the AxeFX. I hadn't really played one in the flesh, other than maybe in a store here or there for 5 or 10 minutes.
Well, yeah. I mean, first of all, I think you kind of have to define what an AxeFX unit is.
Okay.
I mean, if you don't know, an AxeFX is essentially a unit that replaces the preamp from your amplifier and all of your effects, and it will also emulate the sound of a power amp and the sound of pretty much any speaker cabinet you can think of. So, the simplest way to define it, a lot of people will plug the guitar into AxeFX and then go AxeFX straight to PA system.
Right.
So it's kind of, it's like a one-box solution.
Well, I think what we're finding out is a lot of people have a giant wall of Marshalls.
Yeah.
And they plug into an AxeFX in the back, and that goes out to their PA because, there's more than one artist out there,
yeah.
I think, that's sort of doing that style of,
I mean, and there's other ways to run it. I actually don't run it that way. What I do is I'll plug my guitar into the AxeFX.
Okay.
And then and then the two outputs, left and right stereo, will go straight to the PA system.
Okay.
And then there's a second pair of outputs that will go back to a tube amplifier.
So they're voiced for an amp.
Yes. Well, what I do,
I think basically what it does is it bypasses the cabinet inside the unit.
That's exactly how I have it wired.
Yeah.
I mean, you can pretty much configure it.
I think it would be too muddy if it was cabinet on top of cabinet.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you need to bypass one of the cabinets, and then it sounds great, and then it sounds perfect.
Well, see, yeah, I mean, so the what I hear coming out of the amplifier is the actual speakers, and like you say, I don't need the cabinet emulation on because I'm running through a real amplifier,
right?
Locally, but to the PA system is seeing the direct out electronic cab emulation.
Sure.
And there are companies that make software called IRs, which stands for impulse response.
I am familiar and I love them.
Yeah, and what they do is, it's basically software that will emulate a bunch of different cabinets, and the IRs tend to. I think that's kind of the wave of the future.
Well, I like that you use the word wave because it's a pretty slick situation. They run a pulse through a speaker.
Yeah.
And the software knows exactly what the pulse is being sent, and then it hears what it heard back, and then it can calculate the difference, and that must be the speaker.
Right.
And it's so accurate. It's so incredibly accurate.
Yeah.
And it comes from reverbs. This technology was around with, reverbs and convolution reverbs. And they said, hey, wait, maybe we can make a speaker out of this. And boy, could they ever. Yeah. And to me, the IRs, there's really two types of speaker sort of recreation.
Yeah.
There's emulation, which is they create a speaker from scratch and they sort of come up with their own, and then there's impulse response.
Right.
And of the two, impulse response wins hands down every single time. I go guitar rig. In 3, they used impulse responses. In 4, they came out with their own emulator.
Yeah.
And didn't sound as good. And they went running back in version 5 to impulse responses because the product just sounded better with impulse responses. And so that's what this uses, right? The AxeFX is all impulse response. You could use a third-party impulse response if you wanted. If you wanted to go out and buy one, you could probably...
Fractal Audio calls them cab packs.
Okay.
So what they do is they make proprietary deals with with people that are making impulse responses.
Sure.
And they package them in a way that essentially you load the impulse responses into your computer, and then there's a software that you use to sort of help load them into the AxeFX.
Right. So how long have you been using an AxeFX?
A little bit over a year now.
Okay. Yeah.
And the short version of it is, it's if you buy it out of the box and plug it in and play it, it's going to sound great.
Right.
But if you learn how the thing works, and then really sort of dig into it, it's a pretty steep learning curve.
Right.
But I will tell you that for me, it's been just an amazing, game-changing experience.
Now, you've been playing guitar a long time.
Yeah.
And you've been teaching at Berkeley for about 25 years now.
Yep.
So you've seen a lot of technology over the years.
Yes.
And I could tell you had a sort of unbridled enthusiasm for this product that you really dig it. And you're not the only one.
Yeah.
I think there's a couple of camps out there. There's the Kemper camp and there's the AxeFX camp. And of course the AxeFX camp doesn't want to hear about the Kemper, and the Kemper people swear by the AxeFX. Having heard both, I'm about to make a bold statement here. I think I like the AxeFX a little nicer.
Yeah.
Just, I mean, if that's the speed of light, Kemper's 99 and Infinite 9's the speed of light, but I still think I'm going to give it slightly to the AxeFX. Having heard both quite a bit in a lot of different situations, I will say this. Some of the best Marshall emulation I've ever heard has come out of a Kemper.
Yeah.
And that's great for that amp.
Yeah.
But a buddy of mine has an AxeFX, and he's gone through some tones, and maybe we can go through a couple here, some of your favorite presets. And I gotta say, it really does sound like an amp. I mean, it has that certain mid-push, that certain bloom that you just don't get. You're not getting that. I'm running through TH2 right now. It's not quite the same as what you're getting, I think.
Yeah. Well,
and part of it is because I'm using software.
Yeah.
And you're using Analog Device Tiger Shark DSPs, a pair of them, I'm pretty sure.
Yes.
And a lot of people say that's the same chip that's in a PV Viper. No, it's not. The PV Viper uses the Shark. The AxeFX uses the Tiger Shark. They're two completely different processors. The Tiger Shark being a lot more expensive and a lot more difficult to program and a lot more powerful once you program it. But they're not the same processor. Tiger Shark is a much more complicated processor. So that's using Tiger Sharks. And I think that's where I think a lot of its sort of over-engineering comes from. It's like you can throw nothing at it that it's just not going to like whip right through because that's what they're it's an Analog Devices DSP that's like their creme de la creme.
Well, I think, for me, the big difference between the Fractal and everything else I've played through, as far as like digital amp modeling, is that, I've been sort of playing around with that stuff for years. From I've gone through copies of Guitar Rig,
right?
But what's the other one? Not Guitar Rig.
There's TH2. There's Amplitude.
Amplitude.
Okay. That's hit or miss for me.
Yeah, and this, and there's a few others. There's an amp company called Quassa that makes a really nice one.
Oh yeah, Kuassa, and they've actually got one or two free ones out there that you might want to check out. Now, they got a free amp that's actually pretty good.
Yeah. And they sound great.
TSI I think is another one, and the other big one is what's that British one that's huge? Everyone wants me to S-Gear.
Yeah, actually I haven't heard of that one.
Yeah, they're pretty big. The people swear they don't have a lot of amps.
Yeah,
they have like 4 or 5 amps.
Yeah,
but what they do, they're pretty good.
Yeah, the thing about the Fractal, it seems like they're the first ones to really figure out how to get the box to feel like an amplifier.
Right.
And and I'm not smart enough to be able to tell you like what the difference is. What I find is that like when I play through any of the computer the software systems amp emulations, they sound pretty good. They're pretty convincing.
Yeah.
And perfectly good in some traffic tracking situations. Demos, great all day long.
Right.
But the AxeFX to me feels like I'm playing through a real amplifier.
Right. Right.
The only difference is that it's way more consistent than any tube amp that I've ever played. Like tube amps, I've got a bunch of them, and the big downside of a tube amp is going to be that every time I turn it on, it sounds a little different and it behaves a little different. So it's going to have its good days and it's going to have its bad days.
Right. I know Robin Ford complained about bad electricity in a lot of venues. So he goes,
Yeah.
we go to these very old venues. The electricity is dirty, very
Yeah.
old, and all over the place.
Yeah.
And he goes, you plug the amp, and you're like, what's wrong with this amp? And then you realize, you're playing in a venue that was built 130 years ago.
Right.
And, they had, the last time they had their electricity redone was in 1945.
Right.
And
Right.
you're stuck
And they use
with,
a knob and tube
right,
wiring.
they're using knob like this house has, as you've noticed. we got a little knob and tube down here. I know, this place.
That's a fire waiting to happen.
Oh,
isn't it?
tell me about it.
But that's the main thing. It's just that it feels really good to play through. And like you say, like when I'm using overdrive settings, the notes bloom in a really nice way.
Well, and the other thing I notice is like, so here I am, full open, but as you start to, it's not quite the same. Hear that big jump?
Yeah, that sounds like you have a gate turned on.
There probably is a gate turned on, but not on the input.
Okay.
Right? So,
yeah,
it's like it.
Yeah. Now with this one, so here's full up, then a little bit, well, let me turn those echoes off.
Right. A little more consistent, I think, throughout the range. I think it's more consistent with what I get with an amp through the reload box, because those tubes are just naturally compressed all the time.
Yeah.
And even when I back off a little bit, I still get that. And I think that's what the AxeFX does, is it can just really give us that, I don't know, that dynamic range that you just don't see out of the software.
Yeah. Well, and one thing that's really nice, I mean, one of the reasons why the AxeFX has such a steep learning curve is because there are so many parameters that you can get in. Now, you can get access to it.
Paralysis.
Yeah. You can get access to all of it from that front panel green screen, but you'll drive yourself nuts with that.
Yeah, no, I saw you brought a Mac with you.
Yes.
Yeah, and you like to run that Mac as basically the interface for the AxeFX, because I got to assume
the editor for
the editor,
Yeah.
editor, right? And that I got to think is a lot easier.
It's Fractal Audio makes a product called XEdit, which is a software. You can either get it for PC or for Mac.
Okay.
And the interface looks exactly the same on both platforms.
Right.
And it's a very simple looking interface, but it gives you like really thoughtful access to everything about the machine that you could want to have access to.
Right. Plus, it's non-linear, so you can just go and click on something rather than having to dial through a parameter.
Right.
And Like, oh, wait. Oh, I think it went past it. It's like when I'm on my printer upstairs
Right.
and I'm going, wait a second, I want to set my fax output on
Right.
it, you know?
Right.
And it's like you're standing on this tiny screen, you know? That's got a big screen. It's got a
Yeah.
nice screen.
Yeah.
But it's still not as big and as nice as your Mac screen.
No, that's right.
Yeah,
And on the Mac it's in full color too.
Right.
Which, you know, I mean, I don't know if that really makes a difference, but
It probably does, though, because sometimes when you look for things, you know, color is very strong.
Yeah.
So sometimes when they color code something, you know exactly where that button is, and it's easy
Yeah,
to
that's
go
true.
to. You know?
yeah, your brain looks for the red button.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know with color-coded things, I've color-coded cables, all kinds of stuff, because it just
Yeah.
makes it easier in the long run, you know. Let's hear a few patches.
Okay. All right. Well,
Now, I noticed you got 3 pedals here. You got a couple of EV5 expression pedals.
yep.
And those, and you've got, this is the MIDI, this is the MFC 101 Mark III MIDI foot controller.
That's correct.
And you're playing the Fractal Audio AxeFX 2 XL, just so everyone
Yes.
knows what we're playing here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, there are essentially 2 modes that the AxeFX will operate. The foot pedal will operate in. One of them is you're just stepping through presets.
Okay. Sounds normal.
Okay. So here, as I do this, I'm
That's like your one,
button
your
number
two.
1 is
right.
it's
I
Jons
see.
Stereo.
It's
stereo
the bottom.
Wash,
Gotcha.
Stereo.
Right.
The FAS lead 1. That's a really nice sound.
Yeah.
effect.
That's
Yeah, I mean that was really,
nice.
really, really nice.
yeah. Agreed.
But my patches, another mode that it operates in is what it calls reveal mode.
Okay.
Okay. Now, when I press reveal, the bottom 5 switches, instead of being preset advanced switches, what they do instead is they call up different scenes within a single preset.
Okay, so sort of like turning on a phaser on or off. Is it that? Like
It's
whatever you program the scene to be?
Yes. Okay.
That sounds like it could do quite a bit. Because
So what you can do is you can set up a single preset.
Right.
Like this preset, Jons Stereo 1.
Okay.
I have this set up so that if I'm calling up a clean sound,
Right.
it will it will bring up one amp and one cabinet. Okay. And then I also have access to compressors, a handful of compressors, delays, reverbs, wah-wah, tremolo, all of those things.
Right.
Okay. But then if I call up an overdrive sound, it will call up a different amp model and a different cabinet and different settings.
Oh, right.
Okay.
Right.
And it will do all of that while living inside of one single preset.
Wow.
So the big advantage there is that you don't have that that momentary silence for it to load programs.
So it's sort of like a live mode.
Yes.
In the sense that you can change it, because the PV software has that. If
Yeah.
you change the software from patch to patch,
Yeah.
there's a momentary delay where it goes out and then
Yeah,
new
they all
patches
do that.
lo-
Yeah.
But if I turn it into live mode, I can stack like 5, just like the same thing, 5 up there, and they're seamless, because basically what it does is it loads all 5 patches at the same time.
Yeah.
And then when you move between them, it just switches. It doesn't actually have to
Well,
load.
this doesn't do that quite.
Okay.
What this does, well, it's so I've got 8 buttons, 10 buttons on top.
Okay.
That do different things, like I can add or subtract the compressor. So there's a compressor on, there's a compressor off,
Right.
tremolo,
Oh, I like that.
okay?
Yeah.
I can add the drive individually. Okay, I can add chorus,
Nice.
okay? I can rotary speaker emulation,
All right.
and I can also can speed up the rotary.
Just by presetting that.
Yeah.
So that's what is that? What does that say? Rotary by 4?
No, this says rotary XY.
Okay.
Okay, because there's a function that AxeFX calls XY.
Okay.
So it's essentially what it means is that every stomp box or every effect can have an X set of settings and a Y set of settings.
Gotcha.
And toggling between X and Y will
give you
toggle between your preset things with that. Okay, so in the top.
Well, you're talking me into it, bro.
Up here, okay, so here's delay 2. Okay, so here's delay 2.
Right.
Okay, and here's delay 1.
Yeah, just a straight up.
Yeah. Okay. So now I've got drive XY over here. So I've got the drive on now. So more drive.
Yeah. That's a noticeable difference. Yeah.
Okay. And then over here, here's where you can switch amps.
Right.
You see?
Yeah, huge difference.
So those are all things that you can switch individually, like as if you were dealing with a stomp box.
Right.
Okay. Now, the bottom row is functions like scenes. So what this will allow me to do is I can they say, okay, scene 1 is just nothing but clean and a little hint of reverb. Okay. Scene 2 is a little bit of delay and compressor with a hint of reverb. Okay. Now I've got the volume, the delay volume on a pedal. So if I bring the pedal all the way back, the delays are pretty quiet.
Right.
Now if I bring them in,
much more prominent.
More, yeah. Okay.
Beautiful.
So, scene 3 is default to compressor plus delay plus chorus. You know what I mean?
Nice. Sounds wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it sounds fantastic.
Yeah, then the number 4 is going to be just rock rhythm.
This is, I want to be clear, this is all out of one patch.
Yeah. And then rock lead. You have the wah-wah too. Okay. Then also, the third pedal is always set up as a master volume.
Right.
Now, one of the things that I did was I set the master volume to so that the master volume is active before the delays. So if I put the delays in, okay, I bring the volume pedal down, and you still hear the delay tails.
Right.
You know, which is more natural sounding than if I put the delay, if I put the volume after the delays.
Right.
You know.
I got you. Yeah. So that little order makes a huge difference as
Yeah.
whether it tails or whether those tails get cut off.
Yeah. So you know, so essentially, like this is the rig that I would use on a live gig.
Right.
You know, so again, just to quickly review, you know, the last pedal over here is my master volume. The middle one is wah-wah. Yeah. And then, or whatever else I preset it for.
Right.
And then
technically, all three of those could be assigned to anything you wanted to.
Yeah, that's right.
But this is just your rig.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the first one is going to be is for delays.
Right.
You know, and I set it that way so you know most of the time, so that like I don't have to think too much, which when I'm playing live.
Right.
You know, so
the simpler
again,
the better.
Yeah. So the first preset's clean, clean with a little bit of compression and delay, chorusing, rock rhythm, rock lead. Okay.
There you go.
Now if I come out of reveal, and then
how long did it take you to get this down?
Still working on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's see. All right. So this is one.
Octave pedal?
So instead of wah-wah, this is now. If I bring that pedal up.
Octave pedal.
Yeah. So when the pedal's down, it's an octave down. You know, the mix is all the way to the octave down side.
I was going to say I heard the original guitar go away.
Yeah.
Nice. Herbie Hancock, right?
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
You know, another one is Another one is synthesizer.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's cool, isn't it?
You're Keith Emerson. Yeah.
Right.
You gotta get that portamento going,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of cool.
Yeah, I think it's done through filtering. That's
Yeah.
what it sounds like, you know. It's like a synth emulation.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a real synth. I think they do it through like filtering, but it sounds awesome.
I have no idea how
It's
they
almost
do it.
like
Yeah.
I'm hearing almost like a touch wah. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
That has that like wah. The filter is set by the attack, right? So the
Yep.
stronger the attack, the wider the filter opens. Ooh, that sounds nice. Ooh, that was lefty. There we go. Whoa.
So this is a Friedman emulation. So these are some of the presets.
Sounds great. That one I know.
Yeah. Generally speaking, a lot of the factory presets are quite a bit louder than the ones that I write for myself.
Yeah.
And the reason, one of the things that I ran into is that once you're, is that you have to be careful with what's known as gain staging. So the fact that my presets are a little softer, if I'm only using my presets, then it doesn't really matter. It only matters when I switch out of one of my presets into one of the factory ones.
Right.
And then they're going to be like twice as loud, and it's like,
But it can store 999 presets.
And
each preset can
number.
have 5 scenes. So it's like
actually up to 10 scenes.
Yeah. So you're probably good.
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah. Let's talk about your guitar a little bit.
Okay.